as business owners and solo entrepreneurs, it can be a really tough journey to be your own boss and to keep believing in yourself as you wear all of the hats and get pulled from different things in life and different commitments and different roles that we have and responsibilities. It's hard when you have a creative mind and creative soul and you see things in the world that aren't there yet that you want to bring to life. And it's hard when, when you talk about those ideas and people, they don't, it doesn't resonate with them just yet because they can't see it there yet.
Hello, possibility seekers. It's me again. I've got a really cool episode today. I just don't know where it's going to go. So I have to suspend control and just open up belief. Here we go. I'm going to tell you about my guest, Cathy Williams. She's a trailblazer in the world of body-based healing and creative arts therapy. She is speaking to us from Australia. So happy Saturday to you, even though it's Friday for me. Known for her empowering, compassionate approach, Cathy's intuitive self sessions support women to rekindle their relationship with their bodies and relearn how to listen to, trust in, and follow their intuition. Welcome, Cathy.
Thanks, Monique. It's nice to be here.
It's good to have you. I had so many questions. I just, as soon as I looked at your website and I looked at your background, I was like, oh, by the way, intuitiveself.com.au. And I was like, I have to have her on the podcast. Then of course I immediately downloaded Start a Dialogue with Your Intuition, which you all should do. And then I thought, well, okay, well, let's just see what happens here. So tell us about your professional background and your entrepreneurial journey. How'd you get here?
What a journey it's been. So I actually originally started off wanting to be a journalist, wanting to be a foreign correspondent, and then quickly realized that as much as I love writing and capturing stories, I wanted to be on the ground. So for many years, I ventured overseas to developing communities, and I worked in community development. So in capacity building programs, being immersed in community, and it was amazing. I've got such a variety of rich experiences being welcomed into different communities and working on education programs and working on human rights programs. But this path, I guess what I didn't expect was how much I would take on emotionally
Yeah.
and the toll that that would have. And after I think it was 5 or 6 years of very much, it was a jam-packed back-to-back schedule, which wasn't really taking care of myself and wasn't aware of the need to take a pause and take a break from these kinds of projects and this kind of work. I returned back to Melbourne quite burnt out and a bit at a loss, to be honest, as to, I've done all this study and done all this work, and I'm passionate about working with people, but the way that I was doing it wasn't sustainable. And that's when I was invited to a women's circle, and it was a very different women's circle. So this women's circle, the facilitator had just come back from doing her training as a dance movement therapist. And she was amazing, like she welcomed us into this space. It was a community hall, floorboards, natural light. She had a djembe in the middle. And we were really encouraged to welcome all emotions that were present. And I think at that time, I knew that something wasn't right. I knew that I was feeling a bit helpless and a bit at a loss. And I didn't really have the terms for, burnt out and jaded at the time. We never do. But it was through this modality and through this really playful way of being with the body and being with those emotions and making space for them to be expressed that I started to realize that it was so cathartic to release through movement, and it was so curious to use colored materials and draw on paper and not have to find words to express what I was feeling. So, as you can imagine, my eyes were so open at this point, and I was like, "Oh, this is so curious. I'm so fascinated with this." So I went up to her afterwards and I was like, "Oh my God, tell me everything. Like, I need to know what
How do I become you?
how do I become you? Where do I go?" Um, and it took me on this incredible journey where I really committed to studying these modalities, to finding mentors, and it felt like a really beautiful transition where at the same time that I was getting, exposure to this healing modality and being able to use that for my own self-care and regulation, I was also starting to build this vision in my mind that I could still work with people, I could still work with community, I could still work with, that social justice intention, but I could now weave in this modality and what that could bring and what possibilities that could open up for people's own healing and transformation.
I love possibilities here. So how did you get is that how you finally got to your intuitive self? Like, how did that sort of process unravel or unfold, I should say, not unravel?
Yeah. So as I returned back to Melbourne, I continued doing community development, like youth program work here in Australia while I was studying, and was doing so much of my own healing and realizing how much, as a coping mechanism during all those years doing humanitarian work, I had disconnected from my own body. And I had numbed myself to uncomfortable emotions. And it was through being a student of this work that I was able to slowly and consistently meet my body in a new way and learn to work in partnership with her rather than fighting against her or ignoring her. And because I was already working in community work, when I started my business, probably like most businesses, it started as a side hustle. And I started working with children and young people because that was my sort of area of expertise. And then realized how much women were needing this. And realizing from my own experience as a woman and as a professional and as a mother, these practices can really benefit us. So it kind of really organically progressed and expanded into what it is now. Um, this is my ninth year of business, and I now do it full time. And it really, I'm a creative person, so I like variety and I like being able to offer different workshops and different themes. And so it's now I do one-on-one sessions and programs. I run training for professionals who are wanting to weave body-based healing and art therapy into their own personal or professional practice. And the through line of it all is what I came to learn through this work, which is connecting back to the body and connecting back to your intuition. And I love that you've already downloaded that PDF because that piece of starting a dialogue with my intuition and acknowledging that she exists, that was the key.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to invite you to listen to two other podcasts that are tangentially so related to you. One is episode 90 with Katie McDonald, who talks about self-care is not selfish, and she really did reach rock bottom of you know of herself, her own health, before she kind of got the memo to slow down and start to listen. And the other one was also 89, which is sort of funny that it's 89 and 90. MH, as we call her, McQuiston, who talks about, listening to your voice. And when your body is giving you a signal, it's your intuition and you should pay attention to it. And she would have these moments of her stomach would hurt her. And when she would be in the middle of a meeting and something would be out of alignment, something that was triggering her, whether it's her values or her whatever was not good. And for years of her life, she just repressed it as, whatever it was. And it didn't have the mind body connection that you're espousing here and that we are all seeking. So she became a student of listening to her body, ergo tapping into her intuition and seeing that there was a direct correlation for when she didn't listen, that things would go south for her. And so she was like, dude, you gotta listen. When your body starts to do something, it's trying to tell you that something's not right. It was so cool. So anyway, I feel like you're the third chapter of the third leg of the stool, if you will, of this awareness and this self care, and then it's like you're bringing it all together with the modalities, and you train people on how to do this, which is kind of cool. So I told you this when I met you, and it was I see you as an intuition Sherpa. Just coming back from Machu Picchu, I needed a Sherpa in all of my life. But anyway, so I'm all about the Sherpas. But seriously, you're asking people to climb mountains and do hikes in places they've never gone. Pun intended and pun not intended, but truly intended. And so here you are guiding them like a Sherpa does. And so for me, I'm trying to figure out what my name is. I don't want to be called coach, right? I think coach is overused. Everybody's a coach. So I think I'm going to come up with possibilist. So I create possibilities.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, so I trademarked it, so everybody just pay attention. Anyway, but you are a Sherpa as I see it. What is your process in helping a client? They come to you, what is their general state of being, and then what happens?
It's so individual and it's so contextual. And, I meet women through a variety of different ways. So maybe they've come to one of my public workshops. I often run workshops at women's festivals, and that's how lots of women get to meet me. Or they've heard of me on a podcast, for example, and they'll link with me online. And something about what I've said or what I've shared has resonated. And usually it is that the woman has recognized that she has ignored or become disconnected from her body in some way. And she's curious and, not even ready because, what does that even mean? But she's curious to get to know herself on a deeper level. So usually the way that I work is we meet and we have that first initial hour and a half where, it is sacred space for that woman to, come as she is and get curious about what is going on. What are the challenges that are present in her life? How does she want to feel? And what are some of the barriers there? And then this is where it goes completely unique and individual, and I love it because it's, there's such variety there where I can intuitively move with what I feel, her body is needing and what she is what's really present for her and what's ready to be dived into. So the work that I offer is a variety of body awareness and body connection processes where we are cultivating a curious and compassionate way of being with self and learning how to feel our feelings in a safe way. I make sure that all the women that I work with know that they have complete agency. So they set the pace, they set the content, and we move through our sessions quite intuitively with maybe I'll get an intuitive hit of, oh, that's the theme that we're working on. Okay, what's a visualization that we can dive into that creates a bit of a portal, so to speak, where we can open up in there a little bit more. And, and as you said, and I love the, intuition Sherpa, I'm able to guide a process where I'm just inviting more awareness of the body. And, for some, the body isn't necessarily a safe place. So we do this very gently and with a lot of consideration as to self-regulation and being able to anchor with our breath and anchor with where we are in the room. And then it can go to all kinds of places depending on what's coming up and what's rising for the woman. And this can look like creative arts processes. This can look like intuitive movement processes where we are giving expression to something that we're feeling. And the intention of this is that I'm not giving advice. I'm not saying, well, this is what I think you should do about something. I am holding space for the woman to get curious, and I'm intuitively guiding with different prompts that they can take on, or if it doesn't resonate, they can drop. But we are sort of, we are digging for wisdom that is coming from within their body and insights that are coming out from their movements out onto the page. And it's so fascinating and curious what comes out, because I really do believe that the answers that we're often seeking are within us. We just have to sort of, maybe change our perspective or get clarity or give expression to a really heavy emotion for it then to be able to come clear to us.
It's funny, I just interviewed a woman, Jody Scott. She was awesome. By the way, you need to look up this brand. I kid you not, greengoo.com. It's got the most unbelievable plant-based salves, like first aid salves and dry skin salves and vitamin C serums that, oh my God, from plants, not from pre-made extracts, totally done by hand. Female-run organization. You need to look her up. She's got 4 brands: Southern Butter, Green Goo, um, Femo Botanicals. Fantastic. So just look up Jody Scott and Green Goo, and you'll see she's been through quite a lot. But the thing that she said, which was very interesting to me, is she lost her company. It was acquired, and the acquiring company got into a bit of trouble and whatever, and she lost everything and had to buy her company back. And she said, regardless of the fact that she went through hell for almost 2 years, she came out stronger and better, and she had learned how to incorporate some very specific body work and intentionality and meditative practices. She added cold plunging and some other things, but the point is she had a coach who walked her through how to be really, really present and how to tap into what she was feeling and then understand what she needed to do to get into action without being confronted. And that in and of itself is a lot. And so you're talking about something like this in a different modality. Did you have to train how to build your own intuition so that you could bring forth the intuition, that you could Sherpa others' intuition, right? So I'm not sure if we come out of the womb intuitive or we need to develop it. But either way, it requires some muscle. Yes?
It does. It's such an interesting thing to have. I felt very clear from a young age that I wanted to work with people. I feel like I always had a really strong sense of self, but naturally, growing up in a patriarchal Western society where, and it's called women's intuition for a thing, I definitely believe that our intuition comes from allowing ourselves to feel whatever is rising at any given moment. That example that you shared before, the woman who felt that gut feeling and knew that something was off and knew that it wasn't aligned with whatever her path was, they're signals. These are body signals that are coming from you. Only you can recognize them. Only you can make meaning of them. And I have my own experience of having these signals, but overriding them, using my mind, overanalyzing them, dismissing them. So, yes, I had to learn all of the ways and be curious about all of the ways that I had been doing that to myself and start fostering a relationship with my intuition. And, this is a process, and it's a continual process where I'm in relationship with her. I am constantly talking with her. I am now it's very common for me to, look to all parts of my body and be like, "Okay, how do we all feel about this?" Because I previously was only giving reverence to my mind.
We call that Katie calls it living from the neck up. It's high performing women specifically that suffer this more so, I believe. I'm going to assert that the higher functioning, the higher um, performing woman, the woman that listens to this podcast is wired in a certain way. And I feel like following your heart or following your intuition is too soft for how we've been trained to be. And so I believe that the higher the performer, the person, well, usually women especially, but it's like, no, no, that's too, that I'm not, this is logical. I'm going to just push through it. That's a dumb thing to listen to. I don't care that my stomach hurts. I'm going to power through this. And if I had a $10 for every time I've either said or done, I'm going to power through this, I would be rich. Yeah. So let's talk about confidence and intuition, born or made.
I feel like for me, I was a confident young person. I was quite a loud young person, and I had this really strong sense of self. But I feel like, you know, that wasn't cool within my family dynamic. That was, it wasn't encouraged. It was, and I'm sure this is a common story for many women, I definitely got, "Oh, you're too much, Cathy."
I never got that. No, I'm kidding. Just kidding. Uh-huh. Children should be seen and not heard, is what I grew up with.
Right? Oh my gosh, the damage that these words have done to so many of us that, "Oh, okay, I'm too much, so now I have to keep myself really small." And, "Oh, I'm too loud, so now I'm not gonna speak up." And so I definitely feel like there were many people, many comments, and many circumstances that tried to make me small and, sort of birthed this people-pleasing way of being and existing in the world that meant that that little voice inside of me or that way that I wanted to show up was shamed. So I stopped doing that. In my adult years, I think that I had a really strong pull to prove myself in the world. And so then, that's when you study, that's when you work hard, that's when you power on, as you said. And that makes us really competent. We want to be really competent in our profession. And I think that confidence can be birthed from competency as well, because we have all this evidence now that we can, "Oh, no, I can do that. You give me that task and I will do it. I will do it so good."
So true. It's the validation though that so to the point that I think we're talking about, seeking the external validation for that confidence and that the worthiness I am worthy of or I am enough of, right? So this idea that if you're too loud or you're too much or you're too of anything, I'm too short, I'm too old, I'm too, I've heard it all. I've heard it all. And my attitude was early on, "Oh, yeah? Let me show you," kinda which, the tough bitch thing didn't serve me well either. So I don't know. I don't know, but it's, we have a choice in how we respond to things. And I didn't I think I might have pivoted too soon when I made the comment about high performing women, heart's intuition and so on. I didn't know if you wanted to elaborate on what you've seen with your client base and the high performing women that we're talking about as it relates to whether it's curiosity, intuition, or body awareness, or all three.
Well, on that point, I feel like because of the pressure of, this overproductive society where we are in a hustle culture to do, and, we can't prioritize self-care, and we're not gonna prioritize or tune in with, "How do I actually feel about something?" Because it's not put on the pedestal in the same way as the logical mind is. And I feel like the secret that women all have that I'm really encourage us to tap into is that our intuition and our heart's wisdom, that's our superpower. So you can still be this productive powerhouse of a woman, but use this secret weapon as being able to navigate those, you know, hard business decisions with. And what would it be like to get curious about an internal guidance system and to have this as a force to be reckoned with when when you're sitting in that board meeting, when you have different decisions that you have to make before you. Yes, there's so much that we need to consider, and that's where the logical mind is always looking out for us. But also being able to use processes where we can tune in and be like, "Oh, how do I actually feel about this? Does this feel like a yes? Or am I getting a really strong no?" And, in some of my workshops and in my work with women, it is about learning the distinction between what your body is signaling at any one time and being able to trust in that. Because we're taught to not have trust in our body and not have trust in our feelings.
That's right. It's subjective. You're just being emotional.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Calm down. Like, who says that anymore?
If you want me to redline, just tell me to calm down. Just, like that to me, calm down is for me lands the same way as F you. Like anything you're doing right now is not important. You need to calm down. Or same thing as shut the hell up, right? It's that kind of dismissive, just really disempowering kind of tone. You don't want to tell somebody that's passionate or that's excited or that's upset to calm down. That's actually going to give you the reverse results, right? So when and I just had a conversation with somebody this morning and she was saying she was told she was too much. And she was told that by a male boss who told her that it rubs people the wrong way. And she was like, "Well, my team doesn't seem to have a problem with it. Actually, we're kicking ass, taking names. I think it might be just you,
Good on her.
actually." So, yeah. I mean, the reason I started my own business was because I had a boss that just thought and communicated with me in that manner. I didn't understand though until very recently that you could use your superpowers for good and also to make you a better leader and more respected because you're human. You're not a robot, right? So if I'm always the one that is not connected to people or forget connected to myself. But the idea that I'm not curious about somebody else and I'm not that human and I'm just this powerhouse makes me very unapproachable. If I, right? So if I kind of lean into being a little more vulnerable, I'm more approachable. If I'm more approachable, I'm more human. If I'm more human, we could probably create some good stuff together, I think. It took me a long damn time to figure this out, by the
Yeah, I can relate. But also it's, and we've probably all had moments or seasons in our life where we have been burnt out, where we've taken on too much, where we have overstretched ourselves, and that way of living and being, it just isn't sustainable. So being able to, you know, to take a pause and to get curious about what's happening in our bodies so that we can stay healthy and full of vitality is key. I loved the example that you shared before of your other guest who started to get unwell, because she was ignoring her body. Like, what we store in our body that we ignore does become dis-ease, and it's scary that that is when women only start to pay attention to their body.
I am convinced, I have to put the light on, it's getting dark here. I am convinced that the body shows up with dis-ease, as you would say, in the places where we need attention. I had read someone, I don't remember the author of the book, but it was an author of a book that said that women who feel they have some issues with whether it's motherhood or maternity or love and bonding and so on often will have breast cancer. Women who have had some, will have so what I'm saying is whether it's disease or an autoimmune, it finds its place in the body where there's something not quite right. And I don't know whether I believe that or not. I'm not a scientist or a doctor or a homeopath or anything, but it's interesting, isn't it?
That is fascinating. That's really fascinating, and I would be curious to read that book.
I have to find it. Yeah. It's like the man who has, he has testicular cancer and there was like there's some issues, right? So like where are you heart disease? Where are you showing up with a dis-ease is where you have no ease or where there's an issue. And I it's also my cousin was telling me, he was talking about his father. His mom was my aunt, but she passed. Anyway, point being, his dad was a philanderer, and he came down with cancer in that region. And he said, "Well, that was God's way of getting back at him." It's a terrible thing to say, isn't it? But there was like so there that same idea of the correlation between where there was I don't know. I don't know what to believe in that. Anyway, so the experience of connecting with your guidance system, what does that look like?
I guess the through line of my work is that you have the resources and the wisdom within you. My work as an intuition Sherpa, as you say, is to really support and encourage your journey with getting curious about how that lives in the body. And what I came to know from being disconnected from my body and then getting curious with talking to my intuition was that I do have an internal guidance system. And that is going to look and be and show up differently for everybody. And I keep it broad with the term guidance system because we can have women of faith that might believe in something, God or otherwise, that speaks to them. And we might have people who are really curious about their body's signals, like the woman you're speaking about, and that gut pull might be a very clear no from her. That's her guidance system. For me, I've come to know my intuition as the very strong visual of a fireplace. So I can go and I'm welcome to sit at that fireplace whenever I'm needing guidance. And, this fireplace exists in my mind's eye, so in my imagination. And when I'm needing a moment or when I'm confused about something or when I'm needing to make a decision, I can tune into that space. And this fireplace, at times it's been, a small flames, dancing on twigs. At other times, it's been a roaring fire, like a bonfire. But the one consistency is that she's always there and I can always sit with her. And I always come away from spending time with her with more clarity about a situation.
Wonderful. I think I'd like you to help me find my guidance system. Now, I don't know if we have the time to do this. How long should it take? Tell me how long so we know.
I think we could do this in maybe 15 minutes.
You think? All right, let's try it. I'm going to turn myself over to you, and you're going to do whatever it is that you do, and I'm going to do whatever it is that I do, which is I don't know what that is.
Okay, well, Monique, I'm going to invite you to close down or lower your eyes and feel the fullness of your breath in this moment. Allowing your breath to connect you to this present moment, to soften you into your feeling body. Just allowing yourself to really feel into the support of the chair. Give your full weight to this support. And we are being intentionally with our heart here, allowing your breath to awaken your curious and inspired mind and imagination for this process. So, with this intention, we are being with ourselves, we are offering our attention towards our guidance, getting curious about our guidance, this support system that is available to you. And if it feels comforting and supportive to do so, I'm going to invite you to place one hand over your heart and the other hand over your belly. Do what feels right for you here with your hand placement and feeling the contact with your body, the warmth and comfort that's available here. And breathing into these two spaces, your heart and your gut, often the home that houses your intuition and your guidance. With your guidance, there is nothing that you need to do or be, no way that you need to show up. Come as you are, she beckons. All parts of you are welcome here. All emotions are welcome here. Now, I know that this might be a new notion to sit with your guidance, or it might be as familiar as reuniting with an old friend. Just inviting you to gently lean in as we allow your guidance to become more known to you in this moment. So inviting our imagination and curiosity to lead the way here. I'm going to ask, what does your guidance look like in this moment? If it was to show itself to you, What form does it want to take in your mind's eye?
Hmm. I keep getting visions of my father, my grandmother, my cousin, and my uncle, in that order.
Beautiful.
Now, I don't know if I had my hand in the right place because I have no idea. I'm so disconnected. I don't even know where my heart is. I think it's here. I'm pretty sure it's here. But seriously, yeah, so I see my father. He's passed, obviously.
Yes. So staying with those images that are rising in your mind's eye, that are showing themselves to you, these beautiful souls that are coming in, that are supporting you. We're staying with this and allowing them to show you what they wish to show you in this moment. Allowing yourself to feel the fullness of whatever is rising as you look upon them, as you sit with him, as you soak in the essence of his presence. And maybe there is something that he wishes to share with you in this moment. And just allowing yourself to receive that. Maybe he's speaking to you in words. Maybe he's showing you a memory. Maybe he's cultivating a particular emotion or feeling as you sit with him. So just allowing yourself to breathe and receive this in whatever form it comes.
Very sleepy all of a sudden. We don't want that. We don't want our podcast host to be sleeping, but yes, she's very content to just roll over and take a nap right now.
So taking a full breath here. Having any last final moments with him and your other family members that have presented themselves to you. Taking in any final messages that they want you to know, that they are here to share with you in this moment. And giving thanks in your own way to what you have felt and what you have been shown. And gently coming back into this space. Wow. So Monique, that was only like, I think 6, 8 minutes. But I also want to share that, you know, I think our resistance as high performing women to do this kind of work is that often feel like we don't have enough time, that we can't schedule in, spaces for ourselves. And I want to gently challenge that and say that with intention and with our attention, we can do this work and be very intentional about how we spend our time to go deep, but then still be able to come out with messages and with clarity. And we don't need, week-long retreats, although that could, would be nice. But we're able to do this work and be intentional with ourselves in this way. And I'm so curious as to, yeah, what you saw and what you felt, because this pathway is now open for you to tune in at any time and meet with those that presented themselves. And this when I do this process, it's very different for everyone. I saw a fire, you saw past family members, some people could see a nature-based symbol, some people could see a animal, for example. It's very individual.
So I think there's a correlation. I think if you're and again, as Jody was saying also the other day that she was doing these 5-minute practices because I personally don't have the staying power or the focus to do 20 minutes of anything. Like if it's you're talking about meditative state or whatever meditation really. I can't do it for longer than 5 minutes, right? To be truthful. Um, However, she was saying that she was doing these 5-minute intervals a couple times a day and she was getting tremendous benefit from it. And I think if you really do take the time, and I am a shallow breather. I know that about myself. I can be in the car for a multi-hour ride and realize at any given point that I haven't heard myself breathe. Right? I haven't heard myself breathe. So I have to intentionally do the in and I don't I breathe in and out through my nose, which is not what you're supposed to do. So I'm still training myself to do the breath work that I need to continue. And I think I'm now remembering that when I'm very confronted and I'm very I really don't know how to make a decision specifically. I will go outside, especially the beach, but the beach or the water is my happy place. So I know that I am a better state of mind when there is when the ionic, you know, forces are at work. And I'll go and sit on the beach and speak to my dad. Or I'll go out to the park and I'll say, if you're with me, I want you to shake that tree on that branch with that leaf. And most of the time, it happens. So believe it or you don't believe it. Maybe it was just the wind that particular moment that did it, or maybe it's not. It depends on how you're wired and what you believe in. But I know now, and before I knew it intuitively, that is who I go to.
Yes.
That's the that's the closing the loop. So that was I'm sure it's a longer process. And for those of you who have stuck with it, hopefully you can replay that for yourself and maybe listen to Kathy's voice guide you through that meditative state and just be thinking about where you go and who you are with or what you are with. And I think that's really valuable. Before we kind of wrap up, there are a couple questions I wanted to get in front of you. And that was if you had the opportunity to speak to your 30-year-old self, your 30-year-old Kathy, what would you tell her?
Keep going. To keep going, to keep showing up. Um, I feel like as business owners and solo entrepreneurs, it can be a really tough journey to be your own boss and to keep believing in yourself as you wear all of the hats and get pulled from different things in life and different commitments and different roles that we have and responsibilities. And, I think it's hard when you have a creative mind and creative soul and you see things in the world that aren't there yet that you want to bring to life. And it's hard when um when you talk about those ideas and people, they don't it doesn't resonate with them just yet because they can't see it there yet. So to keep believing in yourself and to keep going is something that I always return to, and to be able to say that to my younger self would be beautiful. I am fortunate enough to have, a really solid group of women friends who consistently back me and remind me of who I am when I, start to doubt myself. Um, so yeah, that's what I would say. Keep going.
That's awesome. We all need a tribe. I'm hoping this is the purpose of me doing this. Certainly is not what I get paid to do, which is absolutely nothing. It is rather that I want to build a tribe and a community with people like yourself that can tap into the resources of each other for the skills and the superpowers that we have so that we can show up for one another in the best way possible. And I can put forth my superpowers and gifts, and you can share yours, and together we rise, you know? So thank you so much, Cathy Williams, for being with us today. I'm going to put your links in the show notes, and I invite everyone to go to her website, which I will put the link in as well. And as I mentioned, it's intuitiveself.com.au, which stands for Australia, for those who don't know. And download that Start a Dialogue with Your Intuition. It's kind of a cool thing. Like, dear intuition, I haven't heard from you a while and I wonder, or I've been ignoring your voice lately because I want you to trust me more, but I struggle when. So things to just ask yourself, to just be in tune with who you are, what you're doing, and maybe what you want out of your life. So, possibility seekers, thank you so much for tuning in today. Please like the show, share the show, and subscribe to the show because we want to know that you are there. And if you feel so apt to do it, I would love a review. That would be lovely. Talk to you soon, and please make it a great day. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Possibilities with Monique de Maio, where we unpack life as a female mover and shaker. If you like the show, please consider liking it, or better still, subscribing to it and leaving us a rating. It truly does help. Also, you can pick up my book, The 7 Secrets to Creating a Life You Love, a practical guide for women in leadership. You can find the book, other episodes of this podcast, and how to stay in touch at moniquedemaio.com. DEMAIO. I look forward to seeing you again soon. With gratitude, Monique.